Welcome back. We're still working in the listing packet here. So we just got done going over all of the agency policy disclosure, dual agency potential consent, and then also the appointed agency. And so the next step is the actual contract. So all of the other stuff is, ancillary state required stuff, and then now this is the thing that actually will get you paid. Um, so this is where our exclusive listing agreement, and they call it a right to sell, lease, or rent real estate broker representation of owner seller. So again, we just we refer to it as our listing agreement. So we'll go through that, and again, so this one is a 4-page document. And in the printed version of this, I do have highlights and notes all the way through here to help you fill that out until you get really really used to it. So we'll go through this. So basically, this is as you remember from your pre-license, all contracts between buyers and seller, or all contracts between agents and sellers have to have a beginning date and an end date, a price, all that kind of stuff. So you remember that from your contract law class. This one does all of that. And so we've got this one that just entered into an agreement between sellers, so Sam and Sally Seller, with the brokerage and firm, which is ours, KW Siouxland. And the reason for that is we're going to sell, exchange, rent, or option. And so we put that down as sell for irrevocable period beginning the 1st of January 2020 and ending the first, actually it should be 2021, but that's okay. Anyway, these are phony dates anyway. But we normally use 6 months, and it's not a firm policy, but that's just normal and customary within our company. So normally 6 months. You can do 3 months, however, if you don't want to spend a bunch of time and money on it, if you're just going to have to turn around and cancel it or renew it or whatever. And again, it's going to describe the property, which county, the full legal description. We want to make sure we have that, and then the full address, including zip code. And then including any and all property that integrally belongs to or is part of the real estate, except rental items. And then, so in other words, it's real estate. You guys remember the difference between real estate and chattel or personal property. So basically, if it's attached to the house permanently, then it is going to stay. That is what defines real property. And then this is where, and I put example, this is where other items can be included or excluded. So, common things like the stove, fridge, dishwasher, microwave, window coverings, water softener. And then I put here just as an example to show how you can just put not included, kids' bedroom curtains, for example, or one of those big $2,500 basketball hoops, But just remember, contractually, this is what we're offering the property for sale with at the gross sales price. So gross sales price, we've got to have that in there. On this one, we've got $100,000 on the following terms, and just use this one all the time. Cash at closing, or you could say cash at close of escrow, but I just say cash at close. In other words, when we close the transaction, the seller gets cash back. And then possession will be negotiable on the purchase agreement. I almost always use negotiable on there because really, this is just giving them an idea of what the deal is, and then the purchase agreement will actually set the closing date. And then the service fee, this is where you can put in our fees. And again, I wrote in 7% on this one. And that's and again, anything less than 7, you're supposed to get my permission, but 6 is fairly common. And so you can, but just talk to me about the commission percentages. And remember, the only time they have to pay is if they actually sell or exchange the property. And then item C here is if the property is sold, transfers, leased, rented, or exchanged from any person within 30 days after the end of the exclusive period. So this is called a protection period. So in other words, I usually put 30 days in here, and if they sell it to somebody that we brought to them, then they technically will still owe a commission. And so on that one, and again, just explain, you do need to explain that one to them. And remember, when this does expire, we will provide them with a list of people that looked at them, and then that way, if they have those, and I'll work with you on that one. If they have that list of people that looked at it, and if one of those people look at it, then we can actually go back and try to get your commission. So. And then again, it just says, the owner can't prevent the sale for any adverse action. In other words, he can't drag his feet and not do that. If we brought a ready, willing, and able buyer at the terms on the listing and they drag their feet, we can actually, go get them or sue them to perform on it, or pay us a commission. So usually I've never had to do that, but we have it in there just to protect you as well. So. Let's see. So cooperative brokerage arrangements. Again, this is how I explain how agents get paid. So just owner agrees to cooperate and compensate other brokerages. That the brokerage may utilize other independent business judgment to determine which brokerage. So we have an agreement with the multiple listing service, and this is where we offer. So at 7% commission, we offer 50% of that out to the MLS. And that's where that's how buyers agents get paid. So this one would go on the MLS as a 3.5% buyer side commission, and that's how they get paid. And then broker is given permission to submit the property to the multiple listing service with all marketing information, utility and tax info, both before and after closing. Advertise the property via any reasonable means, including display of interior photographs. We may or may not put a for sale sign on, and some people don't want a for sale sign, so just remember to ask that. Remove any other for sale signs. We may or may not put a lockbox on it. You can call them a key safe if you want to let them know that that's how we access the property. Show it at all reasonable times, only approved by them. Show other property, and provide comparative data anyway, it just says we're going to do the best job we can to sell that. And I put a note on here in pink that just says sellers sometimes don't want to sign on the property or lockbox. Have this conversation with them at that time. So broker may or may not disclose the reason for them selling, relocating for employment, or you probably don't want to say, because the house is haunted or something like that. The next part is the VOW, and that's a virtual office website. We don't utilize a virtual office website, so that's not applicable for this. Advertising, this just says if owner or seller advertises on their own, it has since it's listed, our brokerage name and number have to appear on all of that. And this was more common when Craigslist was a big deal, and do not let them put that on Craigslist because it will get stolen and advertised and they'll try to rent it. So, and then owner inquiries. If they have anybody that walks by and asks them about it, don't just say, hey, have them call me. That's my job. I will make sure that they're pre-approved. I won't show it to them unless they're pre-approved and ready to go. And then rental limitations. If it is rented, then put that in there that it will be subject to rental limitations. Earnest money. This just says we'll hold earnest money checks on behalf in our trust account until closing. And then this part here, we always check this. This is where we can. If a deal falls apart and there is earnest money there, it just says they can agree to pay half of the earnest money. I don't ever keep earnest money. That always, if it falls apart and it needs to go back to the seller, it always goes back to the seller. So we always check the do not box. And then owner representation of property. Again, this is where they're agreeing to keep it applying by the law. In other words, they can't have a meth lab or anything like that. And it, keep weeds mowed, keep it looking nice, and they want to represent the property in the best light that they can. This is asking if there's any hazardous materials or defects. I always put none known. And then equipment, fixtures, and mechanical systems that won't stay. This is where you can say, well, we're taking the furnace. And 9 times out of 10, this one says none known also. So, but if they're, let's say, for example, if they're taking the garage heater or something, you can put that in there. And then indemnification, this is where they can look at the listing and make sure that it all looks okay. And if it does look okay, then they give their blessing on that. And I always tell everybody, it's kind of weird that you either, it says you have looked at the listing, and I always check the has box, but then ask them to review the listing before as soon as it goes live to make sure there's anything okay. Remedies of the parties, this is just a standard boilerplate thing that just says, hey, if you don't like what we did, you can sue us. in the district, Iowa District Court or county where, whatever. And fortunately, knock on wood, I've never had to mess with that. So agency disclosure, again, this is just saying that owner desires that broker show to buyers, and the dual agency potential and consent agreement is signed, which we have, and an appointed agency agreement is signed, so we've done all that. Brokerage services only, this one does not apply. This is where technically if you do you're a transaction broker, in other words, you're just acting on, or you're just doing paperwork. We don't do that very often, but if we do, we actually use different paperwork for that. So request a complete form, documents, and permission to call. Owner requests that broker select, prepare, and complete form documents. And what this is, this just gives us permission to present them with these documents, and then also any purchase agreements or anything like that on the buyer's side. So it's just saying it's okay with for them. It's okay with them for us to go ahead and make these documents available for them to sign. And then release of information. This is saying that it's okay for us to contact utility companies on their behalf. Communication. This talks about electronic communication. Just says that that if that we do, it talks about facsimiles, which that tells you it's a little bit outdated, but any electronically signed document that we do, that's considered original documentation. And then this is the entire agreement. We don't have any side deals or anything. Notice, again, this agreement shall be deemed delivered when it is received by either hand, fax, electronic communication, or certified mail. Persons designated for receipt of any notice shall be sellers, buyers at the address set forth below. Again, that's boilerplate, normal language. And then fair housing. We do not discriminate, and we don't care who people are. We don't care where they came from. We don't care what color, race, national origin, anything. The only thing that we can discriminate against is whether they have the money to buy the house. And so we're offering the house for sale, and again, we take that very seriously. So, and again, this is a legal binding contract. If not understood, seek competent legal advice. I don't know any competent legal advice, but anyway. And then again, fill in all this information down here, because the transaction coordinator will probably need that information later. So that's the basics of that. Actually, the listing agreement is really the easiest part. And so I'll go through now, and I'll kind of paraphrase this on how I represent this. And so I just say, okay, so we talked about all of the agency relationships. Now this is the actual listing agreement, and this is actually the contract to sell. It's between you guys and our firm. It starts the 1st and goes through the 1st of July. That's 6 months. The property located in Woodbury County. Here's the legal description. Here's your address, including everything that's attached to the home, and then the personal property we are going to add in on here is the stove, fridge, dishwasher, micro, and the coverings. And on the MLS, it's going to say not included kids' bedroom curtains and the basketball hoop. Our sales price is going to be $100,000 cash to you at the close of the sale. Possession will be negotiable on the purchase agreement. And then some other firms have a broker admin fee and stuff like that. We don't have that. It's just the commission. So we've got 7% on the commission, and the only way you pay us any of that is if we sell it and close it. Within the term of the agreement. And if somebody would happen to buy, or if it does expire and somebody would happen to buy it later, but we have to notify you of the people that looked at it. So either way, we're going to work hard to get it sold. And again, how the other agents get paid within the MLS is we offer 50% of the commission out to the MLS. So that way, instead of having just me trying to sell it, we've got 400 other agents out in the MLS trying to sell your property as well. And you're giving me permission to submit it to multiple listing, advertise it, put a sign on it, put a lockbox on it, and show it at only times that you approve of. That way we're in contact with you the whole entire time. This is saying that you're okay with us disclosing the reason for your selling. You're just going to relocate for employment. A virtual office website, we don't use that, so that doesn't count. Owner inquiries, so if anyone walks by or calls you or texts you or whatever, have them contact us, and that way we can make sure that they're not goofy, and we'll be able to get them in and show that and make sure that they are on, that they're pre-approved and ready to go. So it's not rented, so we don't have to worry about rental limitations. Earnest money, when we do get an offer, we will get an earnest money check on your behalf. And this is just saying that that we will hold that in our trust account until closing. And if something would fail, and it's your right to get the earnest money back, then we give that earnest money to you. Owner representation of the property, this is where it's just saying that you have to keep it abiding by all laws and make sure it's showing nice and make sure that it's legal, and that you'll work with us to make sure your house is okay. There's no hazardous materials, there's no fixtures or mechanical systems that you're going to take with you. Indemnification, just when the listing becomes live, just take a look at that and make sure everything looks okay, and if it doesn't, let's get it changed right away. Remedies of the parties, this just says that if there's something we do that you don't like and we can't resolve that you can take us to court, just like any other contract. Agency disclosure, we've talked about all that and have signed all of that. Brokerage services, that doesn't apply to you. Request and to complete forms, this just says that you're okay with us presenting you with forms and documents in regards to the purchase of it. And all of those are either state or board forms that have all been reviewed by an attorney. So release of information, this is saying you're okay with us contacting utility companies on your behalf. Communication, we do a lot of electronic stuff nowadays, and this is just saying that any electronic form or any electronically signed document is original documentation. This is the entire agreement. We don't have any side deals or anything like that. Notice, again, let's see, this is just saying that when you receive it, that just means you have notice of receiving that. And then fair housing, we're going to offer it for sale. Doesn't matter who they are. The only time that we can discriminate against anyone is that they don't have enough money to buy your house. And so so that takes care of that. So this just and then it is a legal binding contract. If not understood, seek legal advice. And then so if you're okay with that, we'll just sign here. Sign, print, full address, phone number, email address, and then also I usually ask them where their abstract is at that time. So that is the listing agreement. Again, that's it's pretty easy. That's actually easier than some of the agency policy stuff. But again, if you have any questions on that, feel free to call me at any point in time. So, okay, good luck. Have a good day.